welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys. Hello, and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast, where we explore the omni-channel digital journey of brands and retailers. I am your co-host, PVSB, and today I am joined by my dear friend and the newest addition to the CPG Guys franchise. He's the founder of Confluencer Commerce. He is a retail luminary in his own right. Of course, I'm talking about Brian Gildenberg. Brian, how you doing?
This guy sounded awesome you were talking about. I was just waiting for him to show up.
I know. If he does, he'll be the first one I go.
Who the heck is that? But I'm doing great, Sri. I've got my new hockey jersey on.
Well, I'm not Sri, but I'm Peter, but that's okay.
I'm doing great, Peter.
There we go. Hi, my name is Sri.
We're going to end up keeping that in.
We are totally keeping that in. You think I'm going to let that one go?
I'm doing great. I've got my new hockey jersey. Everything's good.
So we're recording this episode towards day 3 of the National Retail Federation Big Show, NRF, on the west side of Manhattan. And before we get started, could you just briefly, because I'm introduced you as the CEO and founder of Confluencer Commerce, can you just give our audience just a quick little tidbit on what is Confluencer Commerce?
Sure, yeah. Confluencer Commerce, what I'm trying to do there is trying to help brands navigate the confluence, or convergence more simply, of three big forces, which is retail, digital, but also omni-channel and physical retail as that comes, and confluences or converges with media, both digital, omni-channel, and analog. And then on the content side, sort of commerce-centric content, long-term content, or sort of big picture content assets like television ads and icons and logos and things like that.
Yep.
And then that sort of middleware of content, like the sort of what I often call the current assets of content, user-generated content, social content, things like that. All three of those forces are sort of confluencing on each other, and our job is to help brands and retailers navigate that confluence.
So you're going to help me dedupe all the photos on my iPhone? Is that what you're telling me you can do?
No, that's something else. That's called Peter doesn't know how to use his iPhone.
That is a good point.
Which is a separate business. So we can talk about that one some other day. So.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Brian. Very helpful. Before we get to our very special guest, I want to remind our audience to visit cpgguys.com, where you can find links to our podcast on all major platforms. And if you're not already doing so, please follow us on LinkedIn. We publish new content every day of the week, even weekends. And it's really interesting stuff, and it's meant to be entertaining and educational. So please stop by LinkedIn, open up the app, go to the website, in the search box, type in CPG Guys. When you get to our page, click the blue follow button. It is very simple. And of course, we are also incredibly proud to partner with Next Up, formerly known as Network of Executive Women, whose mission it is to advance all women in business and to promote the cause of gender equality. So if you go to the digital liner notes of this very podcast episode, you will find hyperlinks to our website, to our LinkedIn page, and of course to our landing page on Next Up. We have our own landing page on Next Up. Brian, did you know that?
I did know that, yes.
So that's good. That's helpful.
Yes.
So please do it. So why don't we get to our guest? Because that's why really we're here today.
Well, let's do it.
Building expertise in an industry and solving problems is the playground, Brian, of blue chip consultancies.
Yes.
Our guest today is a data-driven strategist who anticipates consumer behavior and market trends to identify new business opportunities and operating plans in consumer and retail companies. Sounds pretty logical, right?
Yes. Sounds like she finds new playgrounds.
I know, new playgrounds. Her strategies drive sales, 3 to 5 percentage point growth in mature businesses, and she's launched new lines of businesses that have achieved 10 to 30% incremental revenue in year 1.
And 4 out of 5 dentists recommend her
for
patients that use consultants. So.
At the heart of her work is a relentless focus on understanding consumer behavior and applying those insights to create pathways to growth through new partnerships and alliances, pricing, promotion, new products, product extensions, geographic expansion, e-commerce acceleration, personalization, loyalty programs, and Instagram strategies. Okay, not the last one. I just threw that in because
you're still hoping she can help clean up your iPhone.
I know. So please join Brian and me in welcoming to the podcast a senior partner at Kearney and a very dear friend of mine. I've known her since my dunnhumby days, Katherine Black. Katherine, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I will have you know, actually, that my dad and my brother are both dentists. So I'm pretty sure they would recommend
we know at least
They
two.
would recommend
I hope they would recommend
all you need are two more.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure they could recruit
we're going to change this podcast to twomooredentists.com. So.
Yeah.
Before, all right, this is going to be just a laugh fest today.
Yeah.
Are you ready, Brian?
Sorry.
Catherine, before we
you get
get
what you pay for here, man.
Catherine, before we get to our other questions, Brian and I have prepared. Would you tell us a little bit about what Kearney does and a bit about your specific practice areas?
Sure. So, Kearney, as you described, is a global consultancy focused on strategy work, particularly in transformation and strategic operations, and certainly all the things that I do, which you described a lot of them, all the commercial things, topics we all love around loyalty and pricing and promo, and increasingly data monetization. So, it's a great firm headquartered in Chicago, but operating globally. And specifically, I work in the consumer and retail practice. We have a number of industry verticals, as you'd expect. Consumer and retail is our largest vertical. And again, we're focused there on helping retailer and consumer companies in all of those topic areas.
Thank you for that, Catherine. For our audience, go to the digital liner notes of this podcast episode. You will find a link to Catherine's LinkedIn profile and Kearney's LinkedIn page and their corporate page, focused on her particular practice area, so you can reach out to her or learn more about her business through those connections. So why don't we get to the questions? We're really excited because I've been trying to get you on the podcast for quite a long time, and I'm glad we finally nailed you down here at NRF. So
oh my gosh, I've been wanting to come on for ages, but this schedule alignment, there's another business idea. As soon as you fix your iPhone, we can also do, there are scheduling apps.
We do manage to get together for lunch every now and again in Connecticut and break bread, but now we're actually recording an episode, so this is great.
Just had to come to the Javits Center in New York to do it.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? All right, Catherine, so let's obviously ground everybody in your professional background that's kind of led you to where you are. I met you over a decade ago. We were both at dunnhumby USA, the joint venture. I think we were at the joint venture between Kroger, at the time Kroger and dunnhumby. It's now just, they've gone their separate ways.
Yeah.
They are living separate lives, so to speak. And here we are, the children, wondering, where are our parents? Where are our parents?
They consciously uncoupled, actually.
Edwina,
They consciously
Rodney,
uncoupled.
where are you? But would love to understand your career progression, focusing on really what you think are the highlights that led you to being the retail and CPG area practice leader at Kearney.
Yeah, thank you. So, as you said, my whole career background, it really has been focused on working with customer data to help companies grow and help serve customers better. So, obviously, currently doing that at Kearney, and we spent a lot of time doing that at dunnhumby, at Kroger together, which always has a special place in my heart. But I also worked with some retailers like Macy's and overseas with Tesco. So I worked closely with both parents in that world. And then before that, I was a banker for 12 years. And people used to always say to me, well, gosh, how do you go from banking to retail? They're super different. But the common thread is customers. Customers buy groceries, and they also have checking accounts, oddly enough.
And you start tracking, you understand what they're buying, you understand what motivates them, and it plays absolutely in this first-party consumption data space.
Absolutely. It absolutely does. And consumers while they may change behavior in different categories, there's a lot of consistency too. So we can use grocery shopping data to predict credit risk actually quite well, as an example. So there's a lot of transferability.
Well, I used to say that data doesn't lie. You are who
That's
you
right.
buy.
Yeah.
And if you ask people who they are, they come out sounding like the Brady Bunch. But when you look at what they buy, they're a little bit more like the Simpson family.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I'm not bringing my receipt to this today.
Yeah, I was going to say we're really going to do this. So I don't want to tell people that I bought Kraft mac and cheese and my credit card canceled at the end of it. So we'll avoid that. So you talked about this some of the ease with which you were able to port what you knew about consumers over from banking to CPG. At the heart of that, I've got to imagine, is data, right?
Yeah.
So a couple questions on. So why and kind of how does data live in the center of all sort of good business decisions? And are there particular types of data that you're emphasizing with clients to employ? And I guess I have 3 questions. And then one of the things we hear a lot from clients is about, I've got so much data, I don't know what to do with it. What do you think about the amount of data? Is there enough data? Do companies need more? Do they need less? What's enough data look like? So there's a bunch of questions embedded in there around data. And,
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that that data is so critical to all decision making. And PBSB, you said it best. Like, data really is the great democratizer. Actually, Rodney used to say, data is the truth serum. And I think it really does give a voice to people who don't always have a voice in the room. You know, the consumer that's maybe really different than the entire management team didn't always have a voice in the room, and now they do. And I think that's through data, and that's why it's so critically important. And my bias is definitely towards consumer data and really consumer purchase data. There are lots of great types of data, and marrying them together is really important and drives lots of great insight. But if I had to pick one, I would pick POS data any day of the week, because I think it's incredibly powerful. It's very granular. It's longitudinal, and it really is the heart of the matter.
Factual.
And it's factual.
Well,
yes.
well, it echoes the idea too that, like, you know, you are in the end what you do, not what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's particularly true. Having grown up in the shopper research side of things during my cancer hard times, it was remarkable how often people would, in great detail, after you'd watch them do a shopping trip, describe things on the shopping trip they hadn't done.
Exactly. or things that they would deny doing things they had done, and you see it every time.
Yeah, it's like, I really shop the organic section hard. No, you didn't. You didn't even go in the vegetable aisle. So.
It's so true. I can think of a number of studies over the years that I've done where we've married actual purchase data with research. Yeah. And sometimes they're off by like 50%. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's like you're really not talking to the same people. So it's
exactly.
So yeah, I always had this theory that like anyway, we'll come back to that. That's a longer story for a different day. So Peter, back to you.
All right. So Katherine, I want to talk to you about digital engagement of consumers. It's a core component of how brands and retailers go to market these days. But digital is a very broad description. Would you help us break digital down into the most common components that your clients really need to focus their attentions on to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We could spend the entire podcast talking about the elements of digital, so we won't do that. But I think if I were to hone in on the pieces that I think need the most focus from clients, I think the 2 in my mind, or maybe the 2 that don't immediately come to mind for people. One is on kind of the execution elements, and I'll describe that more in a minute. And the second is around their culture, which doesn't feel or sound very digital at all, but makes a huge impact. And I'll tell you why I think that. On the first one, the execution, there are a lot of strategies in place, and we'll see clients really struggle, though, to make money off of them because they're not executing them well. So I can think of a number of conversations with CPGs who will say, "Gosh, if we could only get retailer, XYZ to fix their product labeling, or fix their digital product management, or be faster about their ability to ingest files or whatnot," just simple tactical execution stuff, they would spend a lot more money with them. So I think that's a big one. And then I also think the other piece, it's a really big one, beyond the obvious things like, that you're going to think of, but is the culture. And the reason I say that is we see over and over again the difference maker between companies that really make big strides in digital and analytics and any of those topics have a want-to factor that other people don't seem to have. And we've done research on this that shows that
they have a feel like they need to, but not that they really want to embed that in their very DNA.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the difference maker, I think, across a number of topics. And we'll see this in our research, the difference between leaders and laggards. The deciding factor is our executive team kind of wants to do it, has mandated, really is behind it. That's the number one thing. When that is in place, you see budget flow to that. You see people aligned, resources aligned to it, and you see them also stating their capabilities are more advanced, but there's sort of a cycle to that.
So following up on that, can a company really succeed if the C whatever level person doesn't really understand it? That they'll support it and they will say we want it, but do they have to have that extra step of really understanding, or is that not necessarily a component for that success to occur?
I think if they understand the importance and they sort of have what I call religion around it, it will work, even if they don't really 100%.
So I don't know how to do TikTok, but as long as I understand
I can be a very religious person and understand God quite poorly, yes. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're religious about, if you're an evangelist for TikTok, even if you've never posted and you don't understand how it works, then yes, I think your organization, the organization of PBSB can succeed. Absolutely. But I think that's a really critical component.
Yeah. Okay. And one more follow-up on that, just to be, but how have you seen an organization that was able to take the senior management group and get them religion, to coin a phrase? And what were some of the steps they did to do that? It's because, hoping that your senior management gets it is because we have a lot of people, much as I'd like to say that everybody listens to this is CEO of something. They are CEO of their own lives, I'm sure. But we have a lot of people here that are trying to influence a company that is, from an understanding point of view, behind where they are in terms of where the world is sometimes. So what are some of are there anything you've seen that's really worked well, or?
Yeah, I actually have a whole presentation on this, so you can ping me if you really want to hear the gory details.
Yes.
Shameless promotion.
There you go.
Shameless promotion number one. Shameless promotion number two is I do think having what I've seen work really well is to have that C-level executive marry up either with an advisor or with another company. It could be a similar company to them that they really admire in a different country that's done something in this space, or a different field, but it's adjacent enough that it makes sense for them. But those are the two strategies that I've seen work really well, is they have someone that they trust and they respect who can help to educate them.
Yeah, awesome. And then, obviously during your time at dunnhumby and your time in data, especially in the financial services industry, where this is a much bigger concept typically, the notion of customer lifetime value is a big part of how we think about that. And then that sort of distills down to loyalty. I'd be curious for your thoughts on two aspects of that. One, what are some of the trends that you see in loyalty? And then the second one would be, how do you think that we as a collective consumer packaged goods industry, so you're responsible for all of it now. So congratulations.
Great. I would like a raise,
you don't
please.
Get a raise. You don't get a raise.
Chief Dental Officer and the CEO of CPG. Because customer lifetime value is one of those concepts I think that people understand, but when you actually think about how practically most brands and most retailers do their day-to-day work, it's not a big part of how they make decisions. So what are the trends you're seeing in loyalty, and do you see brands thinking about longer-term loyalty expressed as customer lifetime value a little bit more often or a little bit more effectively?
Yeah, I'll start with your second question, because when I came from banking into retail, that was sort of my first question. Where's our MPV model? Where's all this? And what it took me a little time to learn is I do think...
The discount rate is 1,000,000% in the consumer packaged goods industry.
Yeah, exactly. I do think retailers and CPGs are somewhat long-term oriented. I think all public companies have a short-term lens to them, but I think they are somewhat long-term oriented and definitely want to keep customers in the long term. I think the way they measure and express that is different, because it's super easy to know exactly if your customer is with you or not in a bank. You open and close checking accounts. You have a balance that goes down. It's very obvious. With grocery shopping, it's kind of all over the board. And I don't know if you've ever spent time sort of predicting if someone is leaving. Actually, identifying someone as a leaver is even challenging, because most customers shop multiple stores. And in grocery, it's 3, 4 or more stores. And so knowing that they're gone from you is actually a bit of an art and difficult to predict. And that's increasingly getting easier over time, but it's not quite as easy as what you might see in a direct-to-consumer business who's measuring their LTV because they're hyper-focused on getting return of their customer acquisition, or in in a bank that, again, they're hyper focused on getting a return on their acquisition cost. Just the economic dynamics and also the interplay retail makes that a little bit trickier. But I think they are interested in long-term value and some focus on LTV. I always approach that with caution to be. I've gotten converted to the retail mindset on that a little bit.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because I think so many of the D2C brands that grow up, because they're coming out of a different ecosystem, and the VCs that are investing in them are a little bit more comfortable with LTV. You see them behaving in ways that, because all these small companies, they can think so long term. And it's because of the metrics to sometimes I think, and it's because the venture capital community understands customer lifetime value a little bit better than the investors in a publicly traded company.
The challenge is always just understanding, particularly when you think about customer lifetime value, that loyalty aspect gets weaved in. And I remember our time at dunnhumby. The stat's about 10 years old, and I think I've quoted on the podcast before, but even among Kroger's most loyal 5% of shoppers, 43 cents out of every dollar they spent on CPG occurred outside of Kroger. So there is some expandable consumption there. And I've got to admit, you say, well, what about in banking? Someone chooses a bank. Well, no. They have a credit card, but then they have 5 credit cards in their wallet, and each one of them is a banking institution. So, again, how do you think of share a wallet? How do you build customer loyalty? It's about, are they using my card more than they're using someone else? I want to remind our audience that we're speaking with my dear friend Katherine Black, senior partner retail and CPG focus area at Kearney Consulting. Catherine, the hottest topic on this podcast is not whether Sri should build an ark in his backyard in Los Angeles, because he's going to need it to get out of the flooding. It is actually retail media. Retailers are accelerating development of offerings to capture what is clearly higher margins than what they are used to in selling groceries. And brands are often struggling now to create a comprehensive and productive retail media strategy. Originally, they had an Amazon team, and then everything else was managed by the trade teams, and that is not really sustainable anymore. And the question is, does it get managed by corporate marketing? Is it overseen by corporate? There are just so many questions on this. So I want to know from you, because you've got your ear to the ground with your CPG and retail clients. Like, where are you seeing the biggest challenges in this infancy stage of retail media evolving, and both sides of the equation being able to take it to a meaningful win-win level?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And it's a little bit all over the board, really. I think what we hear, to your point, in CPGs is it is all over the board. We've done research on this. We've chatted with a lot of people. And I think it's managed a little bit differently and everywhere in terms of how it's organized, funded, where the budget sits.
Above the line, below the line.
Exactly.
Is it
measured?
Is it different, or is it media? Is it media?
Yeah. Exactly.
We argue that it's media.
Yeah.
And whether it's owned by marketing or it's coordinated by marketing, they can't just keep letting it live in its own little fiefdoms. The question is, how do the retail media networks, they all have their own methodologies. Yeah. How do you bring unity to this picture? It's kind of crazy right now.
It is kind of crazy. And so I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. And honestly, it's probably exacerbated by the fact that a lot of these organizations are pretty siloed. And so one of the places where we're spending a lot of time, and a place to start, is figuring that out. How do you break down this silos? How do you bring people together so they understand it? I mean, I think particularly on the retail side, this is a totally different business. It's not the traditional business. And so understanding how that works, how it's driving the traditional business, and giving an education to some folks who are really busy. I mean, look, no one's sitting around thinking, oh, geez, I wish I had something new to learn and loads more stuff to do. So it's a net new thing to both ecosystems. And I think particularly on the retail side, you've got huge populations that need to understand that, think differently. They're thinking about their trade funds differently, also how their partners are managing that, and really needing to understand it and figure out how does this fit with all the processes that already exist in the business. And that's a huge opportunity, I think, on both sides of the equation, is to think through, geez, we have a business. That's where our main focus is. How does this new thing sort of fit in with that? And how do we make those things work together so we get maximum benefit?
I see this at both ends of the strategy tactical spectrum, right?
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of companies that are focused on the tactical side, upskilling their force, going out and getting talent, putting in place some processes. I still see that there's space at the top down, building the what does good look like, and how do I build a strategy that is sensible and measurable. That's where I see there being a massive amount of flux going on.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And there's a huge opportunity, I think, for folks to figure out what is their differentiated proposition. Does their pricing match that? Do their capabilities match that? To your point, Peter, on capabilities and strategy. In a lot of cases, folks are like, hang on, there's a big pot of money out there. Let's go grab it. Let's just get something in the market. And we've seen some retailers make some big missteps, frankly, on where they go first and how they think about that. And also just some misses on, in the haste to get into market, sort of misses on elements like, how what I call commercial connectivity, but how they're laid out on their site, pricing, how they're working with their CPGs, how they're educating their internal teams, the execution.
Everyone's trying to figure out all the different ways they can do it, on-site, off-site.
Yeah.
They talk about non-endemic advertising for companies that aren't necessarily selling through a channel, but they just want to address that channel's audience. It's crazy.
Yeah, so what do you think the future holds for retail media? Do you think, because there are, as you've articulated well, some interesting obstacles and some challenges. There's also enormous opportunity, as we've been discussing the last couple of minutes. Do you see this continued sort of explosion of it in terms of the amount of money being spent in it, and do you see the capabilities really continue? Do you see people on a glide path to getting the capabilities and the processes better?
Yeah, I definitely think, look, there are a lot of tailwinds to this. So I think we're in a high growth mode, and that's going to continue for a period of time. And I definitely think there's a lot of headroom on capabilities. And the leaders that I talk to are aware of that. They're focused on it, but it takes time to get some of these things sorted out. So I do think there'll be a lot of movement. I think standardizing in the industry is tricky. I think that may be difficult, but
it's tricky to rock around and standardize. That's right. Sorry,
Exactly.
Sorry, I broke into a rap-tree and you weren't here. I apologize.
Exactly. So,
Fortunately, the rap's like 35 years old. So well done.
I busted a rhyme. I didn't say it had to be contextually relevant.
The kids are really hip to run the NC. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Katherine is regretting.
I'm actually completely lost my train of thought. I think
when we form our rap group called Run CPG, we're going to be doing great.
Oh my gosh, I want to see you guys wearing clocks next time around your neck. And you need to be visual. So I think there's a lot of growth headroom. Look, I don't think it's infinite though, and I do think a lot of retailers in particular will want to and need to enhance their capabilities, and I think they'll also need to think about the next frontier in monetization to expand beyond, because I think it won't last forever.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I was going to say for many retailers, this retail media, to your point, is kind of the frontier, but that's just the first step. Like, I'm downstairs and I see Walmart doing Walmart Go Local. Yeah. So I want to know, how are retailers going to monetize their business beyond retail media? Because at some point, there's, to your point, saturation, right? Yeah. So what else are they going to be monetizing?
I mean, look, I think there is a lot of opportunity, and there are a lot of models already out there that are successful today. So, if you look at like a Costco, which is a very different sort of model, but they make a tremendous amount of money on services, even beyond the membership fee. So you can imagine services platforms and a way to monetize customers and eyeballs in a different way than media. So maybe you could argue that's a form of media. I certainly think supply chain monetization, and the Walmart example is one where they're monetizing it by offering a service to others. I also think there's a huge opportunity to monetize supply chain data to suppliers and make the whole supply chain work more efficiently in the process. So build better tech. It's a sort of co-investment model. And
hence some of our old friends from dunnhumby now showing up in Bentonville helping support Walmart Illuminate, right?
Yeah, well, and then, merchandising insights, definitely. Financial services, I think, is a space. The payment space is an area where we'll see more merging and blending.
I think a lot of them, they abdicated responsibility to this. So the afterpay companies could all of a sudden take up that space. I wonder how long before they start gobbling that up and just offering those financial services.
I think there's some legal issues around that in the U.S. as a retailer around
there are actually some workarounds for some of that.
Well, the industrial loan corporations in Utah.
Look at the biggest workaround to me in the e-commerce digital space is what the team at Drizzly figured out. Right?
Yeah.
How do we get around the whole separation of money transferring between the three-tier system, and what they figured out is we're a marketplace. We'll connect, and the money never actually goes to us. It goes to the local retailer. Problem solved.
I love the founder of Drizzly once described his business to me. He's like, "There's only two things in the world we never touch: alcohol and money."
And their business is about selling alcohol.
So those are the two things we want nothing to do with.
And I think, that actually brings up a great point, because I think the other frontier, particularly for grocery and mass people who sell food, is in healthcare. And that's an incredibly regulated industry. But if you do take that sort of mindset of open systems and, we don't touch maybe health information and money, then you've got something really interesting, because let's face it, what you eat has a massive impact on your overall health.
Colleen at Kroger's been spending an enormous amount of time thinking about the role that Kroger plays in the American healthcare ecosystem as a food provider and how to do that and all that.
It's so interesting about that, because I think about what CVS has done in terms of their acquisition of first they merged with a pharmacy benefit management. Now they're part of an insurance company.
And they also just bought a primary care business, not that.
Right. And so the question becomes, at what point are they more focused on outcomes and not about the monetization? Because they make a lot of money. Like, part of the reason, let's be honest, that CVS left NACDS was because the members of NACDS were putting pressure on the pharmacy benefit management component, and that's where they make a lot of money.
They were paying NACDS to lobby agast the PBM.
Exactly.
So when CVS makes one, that was a problem.
It didn't make sense. We love you, CVS. We're not criticizing you. We're just stating very factual information about the industry.
Yeah, I mean, look, CVS is in a position to do something super interesting in the healthcare space, given their collection of assets, and really interesting and disruptive in the retail space.
Sure.
Yeah, I made back when I was doing predictions at Kantar in 2020, I predicted by 2030 that over half of the largest retailers in the world, over half of the 10 largest retailers in the world won't primarily be retailers as their line of business.
Oh, interesting.
Like, retail will be part of a portfolio.
Next, you're going to tell me that IBM won't make computers. Seriously.
But they will clean up your iPhone.
They will. Back to the iPhone.
The I in IBM stands for Peter's iPhone. So drawing back on your financial expertise a little bit here as well, we're going to bring it together. So look, the capital markets have really changed a lot in the last year or so. Venture capital is now is no longer venturing. There's just not that much of it around. The IPOs have dried up. Goldman Sachs let go of 30% of their investment banking division. From your perspective, how's that having an impact on clients? Does that create opportunities for big, more established companies? Does it change the competitive landscape? What are some of the things that you think you're seeing that are going to change there? And do you think something's going to come along that will change the condition for small brands versus big brands in the space, given the radical shift in the requirements and the expectations of the capital markets?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think sadly that largely slows down innovation, because obviously that capital is a massive
free money
catalyst.
is really good for innovation.
Oddly enough.
And for getting corporate swag.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes. So.
Yeah.
CPG guys are not unfamiliar with sweat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I might get some for this. Maybe.
You will, Catherine, you will get plenty
Okay,
of sweat.
amazing.
Thanks for coming, Catherine. We have lovely consolation prizes for
no
you.
raise, but you'll give me some swag. That's good.
A year's supply of CPG Guys Rice-A-Roni is on its way.
Okay,
San Francisco
great.
treat.
It is.
Great. But I mean, look, so I think it's going to be a slowdown in innovation, generally speaking. We saw all those young brands pop up, a decade or so ago on lower cost of marketing and access to inexpensive capital. And now we're in
millionaires and billionaires.
yes.
Right?
And now we're in an environment with more expensive or scarce capital and more expensive marketing costs with all the changes that are going on. So I definitely see a slowdown there. I think the opportunity is for bigger brands to innovate more, for instance, retailers to innovate more in their private label areas. And obviously we're seeing big growth there, as you would expect. And
that's also accelerated not by just the economic conditions, but the supply chain issues.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And the economic,
Nothing drove trial during the pandemic of private label more than the innovative. Different manufacturers took different approaches, right?
Yeah.
Some were, I'm going to go on allocation.
Yeah.
And others said, no, I'm just going to refine my assortment and just produce fewer items. Yeah, you know what? In both cases, it has an impact on shelf presence.
Yeah.
But they made trade-offs, right? But to your point, the economic conditions are driving trial, and all of a sudden retailers are scrambling to be able to deliver more private label offerings, and that's a real challenge to brands.
It really is. So it's a challenge, it's a growth opportunity, I think, for both. I think what will be interesting to watch is I think in particular, the grocery industry makes the biggest changes when they have to. So, when there's a catalyzing event, Amazon buys Whole Foods or, open source coding in the analytics space or what have you. So what I don't know is what the next catalyzing event is. I don't know if do you guys know? Do you know what the next catalyzing event is?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on his iPhone. He can't find it.
I did put it on TikTok.
Yeah.
So what I don't know right now whether it is another big merger or acquisition because the capital markets are so unusual. I don't know that the conditions are necessarily right for that.
I know that the retailers are very aware because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
There's a reason that Raley's bought Bosch's.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with allocation. They got tired of having 35% out of stocks on their shelves.
Yeah.
And they were at the low end of the ecosystem, the food chain, for lack of a better term, no pun intended, and they couldn't get it. So I would not be surprised if you started to see when they can afford to finance the debt and interest rates come down.
Yeah.
There isn't, for instance, anyone in the industry knows that there is a sharing relationship between these non-competing super regions, Wegmans, Meijer, Publix, H-E-B.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that become a more formal financial partnership in some form or another? And do they start gobbling up other ones because they don't want, they need to put themselves up closer to the Kroger, Albertsons, and Walmarts of the world than they are closer to the Gelsons of Southern California.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would think consolidation is absolutely going to continue.
I've never, the only counterbalance to that would be is that there has never at any point been any evidence that being a large multi-regional supermarket is better than being a regional one. There's no data to support that.
Well, I think, I would say the data that I'm seeing is that the scarcity of inventory and being on the low end of the allocation hasn't happened in recent history for us.
True.
So that is a new data point. I think we still have to play that out.
Yeah.
But there was a canary in the coal mine with Raley's buying Bosch's. The question is anyone else going to follow suit? Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I think the other observation is, and as somebody who works with clients, I'd be curious for your point of view on this, because I think there's been so much new stuff that's happened, partially because of COVID, partially because of new technologies and all that. And it's interesting. I was a history major in college, right? So you go back, these kind of odd-numbered years that fall before presidential elections, like 2019, 2015, 2011, I defy anyone to remember any innovation that happened in any of those years. They tend to be years of consolidation. Everybody's kind of, politics end up in a weird sort of holding pattern as you try to figure out what's going on. A lot of disruption usually happens in the years previous. And you find that and I think a lot of the stuff that we've seen at this event have been about businesses trying to get their arms around everything that's happened. How do you see companies thinking about that? Like, what are some of the big things you see? And we're call all script here, but what do you see companies trying to do in terms of just getting their arms around all the change that's happened over the last couple of years?
I mean, it's a great point. You see it at NRF. I was chatting with someone earlier today and saying, when you look at the vendors that are here, when you walk the floor, there are not a ton of brand new ideas, really.
Right.
There might be slightly new executions, but the retailers that I've spoken with are here to understand, how do we get something that we can execute? How does it plug into our IT stack? How can we make it work with what we're trying to do? They're not necessarily looking for like the next huge innovation, because frankly, a lot of folks don't have every innovation already implemented. They're not looking for the next frontier. They're trying to, get up to speed, get implemented on things they know they should be doing. So I think it's a really astute observation, and it absolutely is playing out on the floor. Last year, it was all about metaverse. I mean, like nonstop metaverse infusion. There's like one vendor here on metaverse, and it's all about
Chat GPT.
Yeah, it was about Chat GPT, but that's kind of the buzzy thing. But I think the conversations are really being had on
we were talking
really
about
how
on
to
our Clubhouse
implement.
channel last night.
Were you?
I posted on MySpace.
MySpace. It was on MySpace.
Okay.
Which Peter can't.
I think your point about not the new idea. Bringing Brian onto the CPG guys was not a new idea, but what I can say is it was a very good idea.
You executed it well.
I'm not sure it was either of those.
But I think obviously it's to your point about doing things the right way and getting it done with excellence seems to be where they're focused more on coming up with the radically new, innovative. Like we were talking with someone yesterday who said they were slow to think about embracing a voice strategy.
Yeah.
And when they finally started asking the questions about how many people are actually using voice for a meaningful search capability on Alexa, and the answer came back, like 10,000. Really? Okay, stop.
We can go slow
stop
on that.
investing.
We can go slow on that.
Yes, I learned that acronym from Laura yesterday. The acronym JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. JOMO.
Oh, that's amazing.
She credited that to our friend Wayne Dwan from Constellation Brands.
Nice.
It's the joy of sitting there. It's the Germans call that Schadenfreude.
That's taking joy in others not missing out and watching them screw up. That's slightly different.
Kind of the same thing. I am joyful watching you suffer from having done it, and I didn't have to. Sorry.
I'm taking that away. It's another payment.
There
you go. Okay. Hey, let me remind our audience to visit cpgguys.com to find our podcast. We're on 40-plus platforms. While you're there, leave us a rating and review and share with us about what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more about. And, of course, sign up for our forthcoming industry newsletter. My dear friend Brian here will be spearheading. And he's also launching a new podcast platform called CPG Guys Fast Forward, where he'll be focusing primarily on the tech stack and all the wonderful innovation that actually is going on there. And that's coming in a couple of weeks. Katherine, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
For taking time out of this conference to chat with us. We hope you'll come back soon. And
I would love it.
This is fun. So it wasn't too painful.
No. Look, I got a promotion in this conversation.
There you go.
There you go.
I got some free swag.
She's getting swag.
Right, there you are. You get swag.
Absolutely count me in. No, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun and always a pleasure.
Always great to reconnect with you. So, Brian, what were some of your summary thoughts on what Katherine shared with us today?
Well, I think apart from our deep dive into the dental industry, our deep observations into your iPhone usage, there are a few big ones. I love the idea of data as the truth serum, and how that data can and should be fueling decisions, and in particular, the behavioral or the purchase data. So, if you're really going to use data as a truth serum, really figuring out how to use the data that's around people, around what people do, not what they say they're going to do. That's really where the truth is. The truth is, I love the idea that the companies that are most innovative from the digital point of view don't know more about digital than other companies is that their two big areas of expertise are around execution and culture. And we came back to that execution idea at the end. We talked about the big trend in the world being, retailers not necessarily not knowing what to do or trying to tackle the metaverse, but just simply trying to reliably execute the solutions that they already have and being able to take that and be able to scale that. I thought the execution theme was a really important one. And, I think the last thing was there was a really interesting question around companies that feel like they have to change versus companies that want to change, and how digital leaders are often the companies that want to change. And I think you said something later in a different context about how grocers only change when they have to. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember who said this. I think it was
Kierkegaard or Dick Van Patten who said, "If you label me, you negate me." Oh, that's Wayne's World. Never mind.
Right. Yes. It was either of them. It was I believe it was the old CEO of one of the old CEOs of Intel, who basically said, change when you want to, not when you have to. Yeah. It costs less and you have more time. And my sense is that the companies that want to be leaders then want to change when they want to, not when they have to. Give themselves more time and more bandwidth and actually can do it at a lower cost. So I love that sort of implicit linkage between the wanting to be digital leaders and the wanting to change, and that sort of evolutionary curve. And then obviously all the conversation we had about the evolution of retail media was fascinating. So,
thank you guys.
Well, Brian, thank you again for co-hosting this with me. So fun to spend time at NRF, walking the show floor, seeing it's like reunion week again. Every time we go, it's hard for us to go more than 3 steps before.
We dress very subtly and incognito.
We're sitting here wearing our CPG Guys hockey jerseys. Yeah, we're about as subtle as a heart attack. So anyhow, thanks for joining me on this journey.
Peter, thanks as always.
And to our audience, we greatly appreciate you listening to this episode, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Goodbye. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.